Welcome to Snaffle Travel's sixth Zoom chat series, where we talk to equestrian personalities. Tonight we've got the pleasure in talking to Chloe Phillips-Harris, an equestrian adventurer. She's ridden in the 1,000-kilometre Mongol Derby, a very gruesome event. I think it's 10 days. She's also an author of her book, Fearless. She's an eventer. She trains wild horses. Welcome, Chloe. How are you?
Oh, it's good to be here.
Yeah. Okay. So Chloe, tell us a little bit about your equestrian background and how you decided to go and travel to Mongolia.
Yeah, so I would say my equestrian background, I'm a bit of a jack of all trades, I guess. I was that horse mad kid growing up, and I had a lot of ponies. I always got slightly roguish ponies and trained them up and competed them. And then after school, I went and worked in a dressage barn. I went to Germany and sat my German riding exams. I was always an eventer. I just thought I should go and do some dressage to kind of improve that phase of eventing. So after I did that, I went back to eventing full time. I've got a 4-star eventing horse currently, and in this big mix, I started taking on wild horses, and I really loved working with the wild horses. Worked a lot with stallions because they were the ones no one wanted, and trained them and turned them into nice riding horses. And once they were gelded, they'd be lovely kids ponies or competition horses. And then I did a lot with equine welfare overseas, so working animals, working horses.
Okay.
In Egypt and India.
Oh, that would have been interesting.
Yeah, really interesting. I really enjoy the work. I still do it to this day. We actually work in the South Pacific a lot more now with that. And then I was eventing, and I was doing this animal welfare stuff, and I was working with the wild horses, but I just, something felt like it was still missing, I guess. And I saw this YouTube video of this Mongol Derby and people getting bucked off and dragged across the Mongolian steppe. And I thought, that looks like me. I need to try that.
Wow. For those that have just tuned in, I'm talking to Chloe Phillips-Harris. If you've got any questions, just leave them in the comments below, and we'll answer them at the end. So you've completed the 1,000-kilometre Mongol Derby. How challenging was it?
Oh, it's challenging. It's challenging. I think, I thought being an eventer and having this varied background in horses that, like everyone calls it the world's toughest horse race, but even going in, even having done all the research, I was like, oh, it'll be okay. It'll be fine. It is beyond difficult. It is every inch the world's toughest horse race. In so many ways, it's just incredibly challenging. And I've been lucky enough to see it from both sides now. I've ridden it, I've filmed it, I've crewed it. So I've been very lucky to get the whole picture and, watch other riders go through what I went through.
So what month do they hold that?
They hold it, it's usually now. So usually it's August, the beginning of August.
And is that sort of their summer, or what's the weather like?
Going towards the end of their summer. Yeah. Mm-hmm. So it's when the horses are in really good shape. They've kind of finished their racing season over there. And so you still get these extremes, because Mongolia just is a land of extremes. So you still might be getting up in the high 30s during the day, and it still might be going down below freezing at night. And then you'll get these huge storms that come through, really fast moving storms of hail that come through. And then an hour later you'll be in the sun. And
so what year was the first time you competed in it?
So I rode it in 2013.
Mm-hmm.
Which seems like just the other day, but it's been a few years now. And just loved it. Just
what type of horses do you sort of ride in? And
so they're the native Mongolian horses. And they're not huge. Like the bigger ones would be 15 hands, but mostly around that kind of 14 hand mark. Definitely horses, not ponies. Don't call them ponies. That's very not the right word over there.
It'd be a bit like the Icelandic
Yeah.
horses. You're not allowed to say they're ponies.
Yeah, exactly. But they're just these incredibly fast, tough animals. I mean, they come in every color, in every gait, just really tough, big chest on them. They can just go and go and go. And, you know, they're all free ranging over there. They pretty much live as wild horses, except that they get ridden. But they're surviving winters of -40. They're surviving summer temperatures of 40 above. You know, there's wolves out there, there's everything out there. So they're these really tough, sturdy horses that are pretty wild at times.
So how often, like the race is 10 days, is that right? Yeah.
Yeah.
So how
the 10th day is the cutoff. So if you don't finish on the 10th day, you're out.
So obviously if you finish it quicker, you're going to be better. Yeah.
Yeah.
So how many horses would you ride or change, or how does it work?
Yeah, so you change, when I did it, you changed horses every 40 kilometers. I think now it's about every 30 to 35 kilometers. But yeah, back then it was every 40 kilometers. The horses get pre-selected with vets, usually go out 6 weeks before the race, kind of select all the horses along the way. Then on the race, the horses get brought in the morning and the vets trot them up again. And then you've got to do your 40 kilometers, and then you've got to do your 40 kilometers and they've got to pass a vet check at the end before you switch on to another horse. But, you know, you're kind of riding 3 to 4 horses a day. The fast riders are, you're kind of going 120 to 160 kilometers a day.
So do you ever sort of worry, like when you're out there, that you might get lost because you'd be in the Mongolian wilderness? Like, do you have a GPS?
Yeah, definitely. So we do have a GPS. But I think that gives people the false impression that it must be easy. You just follow the GPS, right? But there's like points on your GPS, which are the horse stations or the urtus. And there's not really anything in between. So you've got this one dot for 40 kilometers, another dot, 80 kilometers away. And so then it's kind of up to you to navigate. And bearing in mind, there's very few roads in Mongolia. It's incredibly wide open. Sometimes there's rivers to cross, sometimes there's mountains to negotiate, sometimes there's sand dunes, sometimes there's arid patches. I think the biggest thing, when I remember when I first got out there, is how big the country is and how there's not the landmarks that you might be used to, coming from New Zealand and Australia and America. There's just very little to kind of orientate yourself with at times.
What about trees and things like that, or not really?
Yeah, I mean, you get patches of forest, definitely, but out on the big open steppe, which is the majority of it, no, it's kind of like that rolling grassland. And also things disappear. Like you might have these beautiful stony rock kind of cliffs, but then you're gone and past them within 5 kilometers, and then you're back out with nothing to go on. So it's really hard to kind of pick your way. And I think good horsemanship comes into being able to navigate as well, and not, you've got to pick a route that your horse can safely navigate, not just go the shortest from dot to dot, which might be over some really steep mountains.
Because what would happen, say, like if you got lost or you fell off or you hurt yourself? Is there someone there to help?
Yeah, so there is crew on the race. So there's medics and there's vets, and there's like a referee and a few, rapid response, I guess, people in 4-wheel drives. But by day kind of 2 or 3 of the race, you've got a spread of the field that's over a couple 100 kilometers. And so you are wearing emergency beacons in theory, so that you could potentially press them if you got yourself into strife, but that doesn't always go to plan. And you still might be, if you fall off your horse and press your beacon, you might still be sitting out there for a few hours before someone can actually get to you, and your horse might be gone with your saddle and all your supplies pretty quickly.
Oh gosh. So what about the gear? How do you sort of, obviously you're out there, do you carry everything with you, and do you have like a weight limit, and what do you sort of take on the ride?
So you can take 5 kgs of gear with you, and that includes everything. There's no restocking along the way. It's whatever you've got in your bag at the start line is all you're going to have for the entire race. So that includes your sleeping bag, includes any nibbles you might want to take. If you want to take your pain medicine, spare pair of socks, a rain jacket, and that's pretty much it.
So when you sort of stop at night, do you stop at night?
Yeah, so you do stop at night. There's start times and finish times. You know, you have to stop riding within those hours. And because you've got a tracker on you, HQ, which is back in the city, can kind of see if you're cheating the rules. And lots of riders will choose to stop at the vet stations because there's usually a family there. You know, there might be a spare ger or a yurt that you can camp in, but then lots of riders also choose to go as far as they can and just stop where they are come cut-off time. So that can be camping out in the wilderness, or you might find a lovely nomadic family to take you in. It's just a roll of the dice, really.
And do they feed you, or you only eat out of what you've taken with you?
Yeah, so sometimes, like at the horse stations, there'll be the family that's maybe hosting the horse station will have a big pot of mutton stew on the go, or some noodles or some rice, and you can definitely eat there if there's something ready and waiting. And if you're camping out alone, then you're down to, you know, maybe a muesli bar in your bag, or if you are lucky enough to be taken in by a nomadic family, you kind of just hope that they take pity on you and give you some of their dinner, which, I mean, they're amazing. Like the Mongolians are just incredible, and generally they will. But, you know, that's a challenge in itself because it's a really different diet to what we're used to, and you know, that can be pretty intimidating at times. But if you're hungry, you're going to eat.
Yeah, you would. Yeah, I'd imagine. So, is there a prize for winning the Mongol Derby?
Yeah, the prize is super prestigious. You get a alcoholic bowl of fermented horse milk if you win, and you get that if you come last as well.
So that's it.
That's it. I mean, obviously you get the title if you're the winner, but no, there's no money in it. I think it's just really to challenge yourself. You can raise money for charity, but yeah, there's no prize money. It's just
So
fame and glory, I guess.
Yeah. Oh gosh. So how many compete in it normally each year?
Yeah, I think usually these last few years it's kind of been between 35 and 45. I think it might have been about 32 the year I did it. And then it's about 50% of the field finish.
Yeah. Yeah, that sounds amazing. For those that have just tuned in, I'm talking to Chloe Phillips-Harris. If you've got any questions, please just leave them in the comments below. So how do you sort of manage like riding the 10 days, and do you get pretty sore? I mean, even like, you know, even if you're riding your own horses at home, it's still not the same, is it?
Yeah, no, it's not at all the same. Yeah, you get sore, definitely. Like I remember my ankles and knees. And again, like I thought I was really fit and I trained really hard, and just nothing quite prepares you for being out there. My ankles and knees went black and blue just from, you know, riding for that amount of time and standing up and galloping, and it was painful beyond belief. I just remember it being the worst pain in my entire life. I didn't get any chafing. I have seen some pretty horrific chafing and rubs and saddle sores. And there's definitely, you know, everyone's got their own method that may or may not work for trying to prevent those. But yeah, I mean, I remember though being at the end, definitely the last kind of 2 days, and being like, wow, well, I want to go another 500 kilometers. I'm ready now. But definitely day 3 and day 4 just painful. There's just no pretty way to get through.
Because the saddles, they'd be local saddles. They wouldn't be saddles.
They're actually South African endurance saddles, which is just pretty much a
Okay.
seat, and then you attach your own stirrups. So you can bring your own stirrups and stirrup leathers. And I think that is one key thing, you know, that the endurance riders probably have a more supportive stirrup to just kind of more weight bearing and spread the weight. And I think that's definitely something that helps. I didn't have those. I just bought the cheapest plastic stirrup leathers I could on the way to the airport, which I don't recommend. It was a bad theory.
Yeah.
But yeah, so you've got this endurance saddle that pretty much goes on any horse and fits all horses really, really well. Pretty universal. And then you put your own stirrups and leathers on.
So you take groups to Mongolia on tours and that. Tell us about that.
Yeah, now I do. So I did the Mongol Derby in 2013, and I just like, from the moment I got out in the countryside to the start line, I was like, I love this place. And even getting on the first horse and going for a good gallop, I was like, this is amazing. You know, there's wide open spaces, there's no fences, there's no roads, you can gallop off into the sunset. I just loved it. I still love Mongolia to this day. It's one of my most favorite places on earth. I really like the people. I like the horses, obviously. I like the countryside. So I was really lucky. After riding the Derby, I went back as crew for quite a few years. And then 3 years ago, me and one of the interpreters I work with and another guy, we kind of saw an opening for doing something really out of the box. So we set up our own expedition company, which is really different to the Derby. But so I also like camels, and I've always been very curious about other animals. And we'd actually been out on the Derby doing horse selection for the race one year, and I was talking about camels and how I'd really like to have a go riding some Mongolian camels. And they're like, oh, well, the camels look, you know, the most beautiful in winter. You should come see them in winter. I was like, yeah, that sounds like a great idea. Let's do a winter trip. And
freezing.
Freezing, yeah, it's below 40 or negative 40. So I think our coldest day was negative 45. And I was like, well, if we're going to go and see camels in the winter, let's do it on the coldest 10 days of winter. And so that's what we did. So we did the first ever winter camel expedition, the first crossing of the Gobi Desert in winter. And it was super cold. It was negative 45. And I just loved it. I took a whole bunch of clients with me, and they loved it too. And that was kind of the start of it. And so now I do really, really remote expeditions. So very far off the beaten path, and kind of with the idea that you kind of push people a little bit out of their comfort zone, no pain, no gain kind of thing, but with the safety net of having a chef and having a camp at the end of the day and having helpers and support around, and letting people see the amazing families that live in Mongolia, the amazing people. So we camp with a different nomadic family every night. So we do our camel tour. We do one with reindeer. So you ride up into the mountains on horseback, and then you spend a week with the Duka people, which is a nomadic reindeer riding group. And yeah, so we do that now.
So how do, if people are interested in that, they just get in contact with you? I'll put your details in the comments at the end.
Yeah, either on Facebook, or we've got a website, the Great Nomad Expedition, which we were actually meant to be riding from, we were meant to be doing a 1,500 kilometre ride right now on camels, yaks, horses and reindeer, but obviously with COVID we're not. But yeah, the Great Nomad Expedition or Chloe Phillips-Harris on Facebook will find it.
And you're also an author of a book called Fearless. Tell us about that.
Yeah, so I'm really, really excited. It actually just launched in the US and the UK yesterday, which is awesome. Wow. Sold out in New Zealand, which is just, exciting beyond belief. So yeah, I wrote Fearless. It's kind of about my story growing up in rural New Zealand on a whole bunch of crazy horses, and then kind of how I got into doing the Mongol Derby, and then my experiences riding the Derby, and I guess, you know, all the adventures and misadventures kind of leading up to that. And
I think I read you got locked up in jail or something because you were on a New Zealand passport or something.
Yes. Yeah, I did have a little hiccup, but I definitely have had some adventures and misadventures in various foreign countries all over the world. Usually because I think I just love horses, and I seem to, you know, wherever I think there might be some amazing horses to go look at and learn about and find out more is where I generally find myself.
And I've also saw pictures of you, I think it was yourself riding a horse and then you're wakeboarding behind in the sea. That looks fantastic.
Yeah, I love it. So I guess before the Mongol Derby, I'm really lucky that my best friends and I all grew up on horses, and we're all pretty inventive with our horse riding. And one summer we didn't have a boat, but we loved wakeboarding. And we were kind of like, well, I'm pretty sure we could teach our horses to tow a wakeboard down the beach. And so we did. And the horses love it, you know, they really get into it. And my really good friend is a Grand Prix dressage rider, and it was actually her dressage horse that was our original wakeboarding horse. And now he wasn't Grand Prix at the time, but now he is, and he still to this day will tow a wakeboard and just loves it and positions himself all up and gets ready to go, and you know, you have to really hold him back. But yeah, we've done it with our wild horses, we've done it with off the track thoroughbreds, everything, and you know, they seem to really get a kick out of it, and we definitely do. So
yeah, no, that sounds like great fun. So who's the person that sort of helped you most and encouraged you, kind of a bit like your mentor?
Yeah, I think I was lucky that I got into I guess my mum has always been super supportive in that kind of thing, but also I think I just had really good mentors early on as far as horsemanship and horse welfare, and then just got to have lots of fun on horses, but also got taught very early on to, you know, be quite problem solving, and that's, you know, it's always the human's fault. So but I think I've had so many. Bill Noble, I went and worked for after high school. He's a Grand Prix dressage rider, and I just, you know, I remember his horses being so beautifully trained and well looked after, and you know, we'd be riding the Grand Prix dressage horses, and then we'd take them for a gallop through the forest, and it was just so cool to see these horses that were the best in New Zealand at the time also being allowed to be amazing horses outside of that. Yeah, oh gosh, yeah, just so many. I was lucky when I went to Germany. I went to a place where they had a brilliant horsemanship as well, and then, you know, they were had top show jumpers and top dressage horses, and they got jockeys to come in and ride them twice a year just to let them go for a gallop. Yeah, so I can't think of one particular person, but yeah, so many, so many. And I think I've been lucky enough to be open to so many ideas and kind of been able to handpick what works in my situation, and kind of take the best bits from everyone who's helped me along the way.
Oh no, that's fantastic. I'll just check the comments just to see. Just having a look. The comments a minute. Just so, how do you? From Michelle, how do you actually enter the Mongolia race?
Yeah, so if you type in the Mongol Derby into Google, it'll take you to the Adventurists, and they have a sign up page, and then there's a few interviews and a bit of a form you've got to fill out, and you usually get interviewed by someone over the phone, and then whoever they think is kind of up to the challenge, and it's not just necessarily horse riding background, but maybe, you know, just that you're going to be okay out in the wilderness. Then once they give you the tick of approval, they'll usually send out places pretty quickly after the race is finished, and then sign up.
Yeah, and what sort of, Serena's asking, what sort of mental and physical preparation would you recommend if someone wanted to take part in the race?
I think being well-rounded in your fitness helps. I think the people that I see year after year do really well are the ones that are maybe not only horse riders, but they're doing a little bit of jogging or hiking, or, you know, a bit of mixed sports in the lead up, because you just can't prepare. You can never get fit enough to ride in one particular way for 1,000 kilometers. So those with a bit of flexibility in their riding, you know, not just being able to stand in 2 point, but maybe sit a little bit as well, but also those that, you know, are jogging and stuff, just so there's some general fitness there. I think that consistently seems to help get people get through.
Yeah, and Serena's got another question. The nomadic people sound very hospitable. Are they aware of the race, and will they usually take you in?
Yes and no. Those who are supplying their horses for the race are definitely aware of it, and they get really excited. They love to see their horses run well. They kind of have their own bets on which riders they think will make it and which ones won't. But then it's also a huge, wide open countryside, and You kind of think that everyone knows why you're there, but so many families have no idea. And I know I stayed with family when I was riding it. I just kind of rode up on my horse in the evening, and they had not a clue what this girl from New Zealand was doing on their back doorstep, but they took me in anyway and fed me and packed my saddlebag full of treats for me the next day. They were just so wonderful.
Yeah.
But yeah, they had no idea why I was there. So it's a bit of both.
Fantastic. So thank you so much, Chloe. We've really enjoyed listening to your story, and thank you for giving up your time. Next Thursday, we're talking to Lindsay Jardine. She's from Calgary Stampede. So good night and have a great week.